And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Flying weather for Sunday morning. IFR here. North slope out to the Arctic coast, but from the Brooks Range southward, VFR all the way down to Bristol Bay in the Kuskokwim Bay area. Marginal VFR for the Yukon Delta. Most of the Bering Sea here. Some IFR associated with a disturbance there over the central Aleutians. Another band of IFR here, Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast, and along the north coast of the Panhandle. Marginal VFR over the inside waters. And then for the afternoon, that area dissipates, leaving behind a band of marginal VFR here from the north coast right on up across Yakutat and in toward eastern Bristol Bay. Interior Alaska looking really good, VFR right on up until you reach the central and eastern north slope with some IFR on the Arctic coast on the east side, as well as the southeast Bering Sea here, and the inland areas of Kodiak Island look VFR, and some marginal VFR for Adak out to Kiska Island. And then areas of marginal VFR here out over the Bering Sea on Monday morning, right on down into Bristol Bay. Marginal VFR, North Slope and the Arctic coast. Still some IFR over toward the eastern Arctic coast. But good VFR right on down into the Gulf of Alaska here, North Gulf Coast. Areas of marginal VFR, Yakutat, down across portions of the Panhandle. And then for Monday afternoon, a little bit IFR there on the north side of the eastern Brooks Range. Otherwise not too bad, improving here for the North Slope. Still marginal VFR right along the eastern Arctic coast. Good VFR in the interior. Areas of marginal VFR out over the Bering Sea with some pretty good VFR showing up now over the Aleutians here to Unalaska Island and Nikolsky, Nikolsky also be VFR. And for the passes, Anatuvik and Adigan, both VFR for the day Sunday. Same thing for Lake Clark and Merrill. Good VFR flying for both of those passes, as well as rainy. Windy, same forecast, VFR. Isabel, VFR. Mentasta, VFR. And Tanita, also VFR. Portage starting out marginal but improving, becoming VFR late morning through the afternoon. Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR. Freezing levels, 4,000 feet here over the Yukon Flats and 2,000 feet extending southwestward there right into Bristol Bay. Cooler air aloft here right along the North Gulf Coast, Copper River Basin. And we're looking at about 2,000 to 4,000 feet across the Panhandle. Icing, nothing really of any significance out west here. We've got elevated icing threats here for the Alaska Peninsula with a system passing by just to the south there. And could be some considerable moderate icing there for Yakutat and portions of the southeast coast, with isolated moderate here in the shaded areas over the southern and southeast interior. Looking at the jet stream, southwest flow right into the Panhandle at about 65 to 70 knots there, 75 knots just cutting south of Kodiak Island. Out to the west and northwest here, we've got northeast winds 65 knots that become northerly there at about 105 knots, blowing across the western Aleutians. 9,000 feet out west here, 35 knot north winds, northeasterlies right on down to the central Aleutians. Light here to the east over interior Alaska, really light winds across all of the area here at 9,000 feet, and the southern Panhandle west-southwest, maybe up to 35 knots. Those become quite light at 3,000 feet, still a west-southwest direction there coming off the Gulf. Light and variable over the interior. Northerlies, light from the Bering Strait, pick up to about 30 knots near the Pribilofs. Central eastern Aleutians, northeasterlies at 30 knots. And turbulence, possible moderate, considerable moderate turbulence here from roughly Unalaska Island or so in across mainly Adak and Atka. Otherwise not too bad elsewhere, pretty smooth. Gulf of Alaska and across the southeast coast all the way up to the Arctic Ocean.